I'm Sarah Fatz, and I lead community and awareness at Progress. This is 10 Minute MarTech.
Google that we knew so well from search wasn't pivoting fast enough, and now everything's upside down. And OpenAI is launching Code Reds, and now they're launching, right? So the speed at which that moves, how does a brand stay in that pace? And I believe the answer is you don't. You have to surrender to an extent. And it comes down to the testing and learning and experimentation.
That's Kevin Hein, Chief Growth Officer at Giphy. Let's get started. So Kevin, let's talk about what your burning MarTech idea or concern is at the moment.
The biggest shift that we are seeing now is this migration away from feeds and towards the group message and group chat. If you think about your own user behavior, about what you post now as compared to what you may have posted 5 or maybe even 10 years ago, the texture of it is completely different. It's less intimate in most cases, and it's could be pragmatic and very useful.
Right.
When we think about our group messaging environments, as far as the big moments that we might have, or even the small micro moments, like I need a plumber or a restaurant recommendation, we're finding that 90% of the people are going to their group chat first, and we're seeing this continue to accelerate. So there's definitely a migration either back towards group messaging, or it's a new type of blossoming of the group messaging environment.
Yeah, that's great. And do you think that that is something that, from a business perspective, how can organizations harness that? If I'm in the MarTech space, right, and I'm building out my MarTech stack and building out what should I be thinking about, and how can I implement that into a broader strategy?
So we're finding that it's very easy for, we'll just say, a CMO who is now seeing the pressures of more of a COO as far as their accountability. There's a lot of comfort in the places that work. And you could pick that across the entire media landscape, whether it's the Metas and the Amazons of the world or programmatic towards TV really works for me when I do the Super Bowl ad. I see sales lift. What we're seeing a little less of is this experimentation in areas that might be what is coming next, but it's not really clear. We can't really track it the exact same way. It feels a little different. I have to do a little different type of work in order to leverage this opportunity. I think at the CMO level, it's harder to take risks because of their accountability, how fast the market moves, and what they need to show on the bottom line very, very quickly. So that experimentation is a little bit of a slowdown. And in many cases, I don't blame these choices on some of these brands.
Right. Humans' behavior has changed fundamentally. And I was going to see how long we could go without saying AI, but I'm going to have to say it. I think, the generative AI has changed the way people search. It's changed the way they engage with brands. And I think that you see that in that the willingness to be bold. You do have to balance I think it's maybe easier for an up and comer to take a few more risks. And you could argue that it probably always was, but even more so now. But that doesn't mean that it's not important for every brand, established or new.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it is an opportunistic yet somewhat unsettled place for a brand to be. Even if you look back in the last couple of months of where Google was from a full tech stack perspective, I'm just talking about Google's losing, quote unquote, 6 months ago.
Right.
And now you look over the last couple of weeks, it's like, oh, wait, you build your own chips, you own search, you have the Android operating system, but you're behind on AI. Wait, why is the new Gemini so good? Oh, we're going to launch Nano Banana and it's going to blow everybody's mind. And then all of a sudden, the brand Alphabet Google that we knew so well from search wasn't pivoting fast enough. And now everything's upside down, and OpenAI is launching Code Reds, and now they're launching, right? So the speed at which that moves, how does a brand stay in that pace? And I believe the answer is you don't. You
Yeah.
have to surrender to an extent. And it comes down to the testing and learning and experimentation.
Right.
And I think that's really hard. So if you're a small D2C brand, you could experiment all day.
Sure.
And you should do that as a larger brand, but the risk model is different. And I think with the technologies that we have, in particular with AI, there's a way to do it right.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that way is, but we're going to see in the Super Bowl, Coke is going to launch their second AI ad.
Wow.
We're going to see as the audience how does it resonate with us
Right.
emotionally? And one of the areas that I always think is fascinating is that authenticity as a human sense, if we could call it that, is
Right.
10 times more powerful than any
Yes.
other sense that we have.
Could
So
not agree more.
with
Yeah.
AI right now, even with AI slop detectors, I still think that human part of us, the emotional part of us, the joy that we express with each other, we could still detect. Sure, we
Right.
can get duped all day with AI, but I think in the end, when it comes to brands and messaging, it's very hard still to fake people out because we're smart.
Right.
We understand authenticity, but it's going to get there, right? A year
Right.
from
Right.
now,
Sure.
AI is going to be core to a lot of the content generation. But back to what you said in the beginning of how much noise there is right now.
Yeah.
And I wonder, uh, is it going to go back towards this analog feel? Is it going to go back to the phrase touching grass if that's still used?
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
going to be romanticized by the youngest generation?
Yeah.
And with what we see about this migration to group messaging and
Yes.
honestly the increase in usage of GIFs for people to express themselves, we
Right.
think that there's something going on here
Yeah.
and nobody's really trying. It's just happening.
Right.
And that's another, it's just hard to predict. And how do you harness that? It's
Right.
just amazing. I think by letting go, relinquishing, testing and experimenting, and that comes with your technology too.
Right.
If you're
Yeah.
if you're making a choice on which generative AI model to use, if you're in bed with OpenAI, I don't know, right? Do you
Right.
use Microsoft's Copilot for this? Does your organization use Gemini for this to work
Right.
with all of their cloud-based documents? Do you use OpenAI for legal? I'm making that
Right.
up.
Yeah.
I believe it's a bit of a hedge fund approach when it comes to experimentation.
Right. Right. Well, great. So, just a couple more quick questions for you. Who are you following right now for inspiration or information?
So I've become a student. It's multiple sources. I've become a student in learning AI. And there's a couple of individuals across TikTok that I use as the source
Yeah.
that are really inspiring because they're in it. And they also describe it in a way that's very approachable. And with that, I've moved forward and decided to take a couple of classes on LLM like 101.
Nice.
And the last one that I did was with LinkedIn, did a partnership with Microsoft, and you get a certification so you could pat yourself on the back. And even though this 101 on the surface appeared pretty basic, there's all of these nuggets that you learn along the way that
Yeah.
gives you the context. So there's an individual named Sabrina Romanov, who is somebody that I follow on TikTok that just serves it up in a way that is beginner, intermediate, advanced. And the people like her that are really in it and have a high level of dexterity, but also could explain it in a human way, are the ones that give me confidence to approach these AI related topics that could be honestly very intimidating and overwhelming because you still need to have a decent level of technical dexterity, especially with the image and video content
Yeah.
generation, that the entryway could be, wait, am I going to pay $9.99 a month for this one when I can do this one for free? And do I
Right.
need to code with this one? Or do I need to be a graphic artist in order to really get the advantages of something like this? So my sources are influencers on TikTok that are
Yeah.
really giving me like insights into the type of dexterity you need. But I really want to be a proficient student in, I think you explained it really well, Perplexity for very deep technical research,
Yep.
and Copilot for an integration with the Microsoft products or however one uses it. And
Yep.
maybe OpenAI, ChatGPT are people's personal therapists, or we're looking for directions or what to
Right.
buy.
Right.
I do think that will also be another trend to shift a little bit retail within LLMs.
Yeah. Yes.
And if Walmart's integrated, what's Amazon going to do? How is
Right.
Google just going to get rid of their organic delivery and move
Right.
everything to an AI model? I think that the shift in retail is going to be measurable and immediate, but at the same time, maybe take a while. Like
Yeah.
Sarah, when do websites go away? I don't think they do, but what purpose do they serve?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I agree 100%. I don't think websites aren't dead. They're just evolving, right? They are.
Yeah.
And if you look at the evolution of a website from, I mean, when it started, it was brochureware, right? And, and then it becomes a little bit more advanced. You still need a place where even if people are doing their research and we have statistics left, right, and center that are showing that people are doing most of their research offline, when they come to your website, by the time they get there, they are far more qualified than they were before because they know what they're looking for. I think making sure that you are that you're discoverable, that you are understanding what your brand or your customer truly needs.
Mhm.
That is where that's going to separate the winners from the losers, quite honestly, right? We all talk about having our ideal customer profiles and understanding personas, and there are tools now that will allow you to truly understand who that persona is and what they're truly looking for, and making sure that you're delivering content, product, and services that are actually meeting that need. That's where I think it's going to become incredibly powerful. And we have the technology today. It's just something people have to, part of it is making those shifts are fairly significant, right? You're not talking about using leveraging your current digital experience platforms or content management systems that you built your website on initially. You're probably talking about CMS 3.0 or whatever version we happen to be on. So yeah, it's I think that part is also incredibly exciting. It's changing the buyer's journey. It's changing the customer journey just in general, and it's phenomenal.
I agree so passionately with everything you said, and it reminded me of a couple of themes related to it. One is a question I'm always posing my team. We have a lot of data
Yep.
that can be paralyzing. I'm interested in insights.
Yes. Yes.
And if we map that philosophy with where the largest platforms are going towards automation,
Yep.
I do subscribe to a portion of that strategy where AI and the most sophisticated digital ad systems could likely take your creative and produce the best results as you define them.
Yes. Yeah.
However, I do think that there's going to be a potential numbness or saturation in that model to an extent, because back to the context and the content, if
Yep.
you have a digital experience that's converting, whatever it might be, and there's multiple variations on that, whether it's color, imagery, text, it's still the root of it is based in whatever that core idea was.
Yep.
And I think it might contribute to a pattern of laziness or
Yes.
something
Yeah.
that might become stale. It might be effective. So when we go back and we look at our data that talks about conversion and we see that this core idea that had multiple variations did really well, I'm interested to see of how long did until creative fatigue stepped
Yep.
in. Is it a 3-day window where all of your results are compressed? Does it extend out to 2 weeks? Does it make suggestions about this worked, it's now stale? We believe that you should consider using this brand device now, right? When does it get
Yep.
passed back to the human? Because
Yep.
we think about like a Disney or an Apple or any brand that's so controlling about their IP, they're just not going to let a system run because it's bringing results for every campaign.
Yes.
Sure, if Disney is getting more subscribers for Disney Plus, they might be a little looser on that, but for the movies coming out, right, there are limitations around this. And I think the compression or the collision of when that happens is going to be really interesting.
Yes. Yes.
But I am a little concerned around laziness and total dependency on an MMM model or some
Right.
dashboard that tells you X, Y, and Z. Again, it goes back to that lack of experimentation. And I don't think that's everywhere. There's a
I
lot of
agree. Yeah.
experimentations in certain company sizes, but you look at the Fortune 50 and try to find like 3 innovative marketing ideas that have come out of any of them. It's a desert. And I don't have those ideas. I don't blame them for
Right.
being safe. And
Totally agree. Kevin, thank you so much. I could have talked to you all day. Really
too, Sarah.
appreciate your time.
thank you, Sarah. You as well. Thank you so much.
Listeners, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Sarah Fatz, and this is 10 Minute MarTech.